button.
I'm glad you forewarned us.
Right? Okay.
No kidding.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hello, hello. Hi. Welcome today. My name is Dawn Monroe. I'm a certified Microsoft Office specialist, master level. I've been teaching computer classes since the mid-90s. I've been through every version of Excel, as probably a lot of you in this room have been. So, welcome. We've got more coming in. Come on in. Wow, this is popular. I thought we had like a dozen people. When Kelly told me 70, I was like, whoa, okay, that's awesome. So anyway, I saw Kelly was planning a meeting, and I said, hey, have you ever thought about doing an Excel workshop? And she was like, let's do that. So anyway, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and talk about a couple of things here. I really want to talk about getting your data organized. I know a lot of you are doing things in Excel already. I'm going to show you some best practices with tables, some things you may not know about getting that data organized. And then I'm going to take you a step further into pivots. Who's doing some pivoting already? Anybody? Okay, a few of you. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to, I don't stick with the slideshow. We go to Excel. Hi, welcome, come on in. Give everybody a minute to get settled. Several seats on this side. So I just wanted to share with you a few things about tables of data. A lot of you are downloading data from different sources, or maybe you're keeping track of data like this. And so I've just got some sample data here. I wanted to share with you some best practices to get yourself organized. So you may or may not realize that you can turn on a feature called tables within Excel. So what I have here is a sample set. That first row is, of course, my headings. And then each row of data after that, that's transactional data. Each row is one record. And to work with this most efficiently and to get ready for pivoting, which I want y'all to be doing by the end of this, is that I want to turn on the table feature. And I can do that a couple of ways. One way looks like I'm just turning on pretty font or color settings. On the Home tab, you've got Format as a Table. It looks like you're just turning on some colors, but it's more than that. You're turning on the table tools. You can also do it from the table or the Insert tab, Insert Table. And if you do that both ways, you'll get to this. It verifies my range, and it asks me if I have a header row. What this is going to do for me is turn on a whole set of table tools. Okay? So you may have done something like this before. Maybe you turned on those filters to get the little drop downs on each column. You've done that before? Yeah, a lot of us have. But this has a lot of benefits and features. Watch what happens when I scroll down when I'm in the table mode. You see the ABC change to my headings? I don't even have to freeze. Okay? So I'll go back, ABC, Roll down. In the table mode, I'm getting those automatically freezing headings. Something else I get when I turn on the table tools is the table ribbon. Do this. I can stay up here. I get the table ribbon, table tools design, and here I can change my mind about the coloring. I can do special things like that banded row is a formatting feature. If you've ever tried to do this manually, you know that is a huge hassle. If you are in the table function area and you're using the table ribbon, you can just turn on and off those banded rows. That's handy. You could also do banded columns if you want. Okay. You could also accentuate something in the table, like maybe I want to do something special with the last column. So when I turn on last column here, what I'm getting is some formatting, and it depends which of these I've chosen. When I choose different ones, that formatting could look different. So it's just kind of a fun way to accentuate something in your document. I happen to like the banded rows, so I'm going back to that setting. You also, when you set up a table of data like this, you can also easily add new data. At the bottom of a table setup, you're going to see there's a little corner handle right in that bottom cell. You see it's a little blue corner, and it allows me to add new rows that way. Okay? Now this is going to be extra handy. I gotta find it. Undo that. When I start pivoting later and I set up some beautiful tables and charts summarizing this table list, what's going to happen is that as I add new data, that will flow right into those pivots. Okay, so this is a beautiful thing for those of you that are adding that weekly data or that monthly data and you want it to format into what you've already set up. All you have to do is hit refresh. Okay? So think about this. Use the table setup. Now you've probably already been using it a little bit. Maybe you've done the filters. And so I want to just show, like if I wanted to organize this, when I'm in the table setup, it's really easy to sort and filter through here. So you can see, going down, difficult to see there, sort A to Z. I think A to Z is there. There, I did it opposite. Hard to see from my angle. There we go, I got it. Okay, so when you sort and stuff here, you see it's keeping those transactional rows of data together, which is so nice. Okay. When you have something that is easily categorized, like the sample data I have has regions, and so when you come into something like this, and you can see that you can quickly search, it's got its own little search bar. You can also do this. I can click the select all and undo all the selections, say I just want to compare east and west, and okay. Now I want to maybe sort by those, sorting A to Z, so then I get all the east wrapped together. Well, okay, I need a couple of sort levels for this. This isn't quite what I need. I'm going to go on over to the data tab and get into a higher level sort. Did you know you could sort by 64 levels? I hope you don't need that. Okay, so for region, let me sort by region and let me add a level. Oh yeah, okay, so I'm going to add a level and then I'll go by, let's do by, I don't know how this will work with this data, but department and add a level and then go by last name. You could add a level and then by first name. I know you need this kind of thing, right? So it's on the data tab and you can get in that and do that advanced sorting there. So now I see I've got my east. Oh, there I've got a couple of admins, a few HR, and then it's sorting alpha from the last name and so on. Okay. Also, when you're in the table setup, you can do things like filtering and sorting, and maybe using, here I've got some number filters. I've got a column with some numbers in it. So here I can say I want to see everybody that's greater than a certain number. So if I just put that in there, I get to put in what kind of number I want. So then I just keep filtering down. So what are my clues here that I'm filtering? Who knows what the clues are that I'm seeing filtering tables? The line numbers turn bright blue, so I've got a filter on. I also am seeing that funnel. I heard that get shouted out. So when I see that, I know that I'm not displaying all my data then. So that's a clue to me. So this is a great way to just manipulate data that I've received. If I've downloaded it or created it, this is a great way. Now, I taught Excel for a long time, and I'll tell you, we went for a long time dividing it up, didn't we? We put north on one sheet, east on another sheet, south on another sheet, and then we totaled those up, and then we brought those together as a summary. I bet a lot of you are still doing that. What I'm suggesting to you is that we're keeping data now in a long, raw data list like this. And that you're going to start using pivoting to summarize the data. The pivoting, when you turn on pivoting, it does not affect your raw data. Your raw data stays just like this. And what you'll do is summarize that data with a pivot. I'm going to show you one more thing about the table before I move on and show you some pivots, and then we'll just do a few examples so you can see it. I don't want to forget to show you the total row here. On the Design tab for your table, you can turn on something called the total row. Turns it on down here. Let me get a drink. It allows me to pick whatever function I want in that total row. So I actually can pick count. I can pick, it does a sum usually automatically there, but maybe I wanted to see an average here. How great is that? And look, friends, I've got this filtered right now, right? So if I clear my filters, clear the filter from that region, my numbers are changing. I'm seeing all that. I've actually got more filtering on. Let's go up. I can go to data, and I can clear filtering here, bringing it all back. Remember, that's an average. I can click on it and change it to the sum. Let's get a sum of it. But what I love this is my raw data set. And to manually pick that out takes me so much time. I'm just saying keep the raw data set how it is and use features like the table features to filter out your data.
Can you have a secondary or a tertiary total? That one for counts, one for total, one for average.
So in here you're a little bit limited, but you could over to the side create a database sum and actually write one. Do subtotal for certain things, yeah. You could actually my brain is just traveling, but you could have the same column again repeated and average one and sum one. That would be a simple way too. Okay. All right, so that is just getting the data set ready. Let's talk a few other things about getting that data set ready. Would you leave any blanks in here? I would not, because sometimes a blank cell, when we start pivoting, it changes. If it's a blank cell in a number column, what will happen is it will do a count instead of a sum. So we don't want to leave any blanks in there. You can put NA, or zero it out if that applies. So just be careful with blanks. Definitely no blank rows. I see a lot of times people will put a blank row in a data set just to kind of space it out. Don't do that anymore. Okay? Heading, start the data. Okay? I also see that sometimes people will have trouble with dates and things. You ever do a download and the dates come in with some weird number?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's called the serial number. It's behind the scenes of every date. Somebody decided ages ago when they started doing computer stuff that we're going to call January 1 of 1900 day 1, January 2 of 1900 day 2, and so on. So now when we have a date, if you like shortcuts, here's a shortcut, Control semicolon for today's date. Ooh. So the serial number for today's date is 43,573. When I change the format of that to a general format, it looks like that. So when you download and you get those data sets and you've got those funky dates in there, all you need to do is change the formatting. And it'll be a real date. Now it's set up that way because we're going to do calculations on dates, aren't we? If you want to find how many days something's overdue, you want to how many days until something happens, then you can do calculations with dates. How many days till Christmas, till my birthday, whatever. So you can do calculations with dates. It's using those numbers in the background to do that for you. Okay, we're ready for the next stuff. Questions on tables. You want to shout out any questions to me? I'm easy to get along with. Okay, I'm going to pivot. Pivots work best when I have data that has categories. Now, if I had done some entry, or Susie Q doing my data entry kind of has her own way of doing things, and she puts Kansas, KS. Sometimes she spells out Kansas. Sometimes she puts KS with a period. When I start to sort and filter and group things, that does not work. Right? That gives me 3 categories for Kansas. So we have to be consistent. We're wanting things with categories so that we can group and filter and manipulate that data, right? So be careful. Sometimes we need to give Susie Q just a drop down with a list that she can pick from so we don't have that kind of stuff. Okay? That's called data validation, and if you remind me, I'll show you at the end. All right, I'm going to take this list without changing it at all. I've got all the filtering cleared from it, and what I'm going to do is pivot it. Insert menu, you've got 2 options, pivoting and recommended pivot tables. So if I really don't know what I'm doing, I might look at recommended first and see if it can figure something out with my data. Look, it's coming up with some summaries for me. It's doing it by region, it's doing some counts, sum of earnings, so it's got several things it's building for me. Okay, that's cool, I could grab one of those, but I'm going to go back and show you how to do it from scratch. First off, it looks and it figures out, I have to just be clicked on one cell in this table, any one cell. It's going to recognize that table and it draws a boundary around it as I start this process. It's also, if I name the table, which I can do on my table tools, that new ribbon I got, I can give it a name. And this is handy because I start building some complicated things and maybe I have several tables. So I can call one this, I can call one that. I get several tables of data, but then I can pivot those. new worksheet, or if I'm building some kind of cool dashboard, I can say exactly where I want this to go. I'm just going to go to new worksheet right now. This part looks scary. I know. It's okay. I'm with you. So what you have on the left side is it's the area where you're going to start building and seeing the actual pivot. Over on the right, what you have is a list of all those headings. That's your first row, right? All your headings came in. So give them good names, not abbreviations that nobody understands. Just a little hint for you. So I've got real names over here, and let's say, okay, I would like to see things by department and region, so I'm going to grab these. Now, you could use the check boxes, and it puts it where it thinks you want to go, but I like to drag them. And you see in this bottom corner, you've got this quadrant thing. You've got a filter area. You decide what you want as columns and rows, and then you decide what you want to see summarized in the values. You get to pick from your heading fields. So I'm going to do that right now. Region to the rows. Department to the columns. See how it's building out? Now I'm going to grab the amount, dropping it in the values. Oh boy, okay. So without doing a single calculation, I have not done any math. No math. All I did is summarize on a brand new worksheet the big data set I have on the other sheet. The data set remains untouched. I can just keep entering new stuff in there, hit refresh, and this refreshes. You tracking with me? This is going to save you some time. Yeah, okay. So what I'm seeing there, all of a sudden I can see, so in the east, in the customer support, they have that particular value for whatever you're looking at. The names of these things don't matter. It's the concept we're getting here. Okay? Do you like that so far? Let's change our minds, because I like to change my mind. I like to try different things on here and see what it looks like. What if I want to see more of a list? I'm going to grab department and I'm going to drag it under region. Yes. Ooh, okay. Collapsible. Yes, we like that? Okay, so your data today, you could take your data set. You're not going to touch the raw data. The data stays put. Okay? Okay. Then, of course, you're thinking, all right, Dawn, I don't have dollar signs. I want this in order. I don't like that. Okay, I gotcha. So, you decide you don't want something anymore, you just drag it back out of there or uncheck it. So now I've simplified. I'm just seeing the summaries for each of those regions. What if I want them in order? I'm going to use that right click right on that column. Okay, so if you've got a big data set and you're trying to organize it, this is a good way to do it. Here I'm going to add dollar signs now too. You format in here. Okay. Now I'm going to kick this up a notch. You ready? We need a visual. We need a chart. Okay? So I'm going to, once I have created the table, I'm going to add a chart to it. Analyze tab. Now when I turn on a pivot, you notice I'm on the pivot. I'm somewhere clicked on the pivot. Watch what happens when I click away from the pivot. Everything's gone. I get calls like this, I lost all the pivot tools. Did you click on the pivot? There they are. It's like when you're working on a picture. When you click on the picture, you get the picture tools. When you click away from the picture, you lose the picture tools. Same concept here. So I'm on the pivot table, and I'm going to click over to the Analyze tab, and I'm going to add a pivot chart. You get to pick the one you want. You get all the same ones. If you've been making some charts already, it looks exactly the same. You can filter these pivots to get different summaries on the go. So you'll see that both of them have little drop downs. I guess in Wichita we should do east and west. These are connected. The data table and the chart, I created one from the other, so they're connected. So when I filter one, the other filters. So imagine yourself in a meeting, and you've got all this set up with your raw data in the background, and you're able to do this on the fly with your data as you're in conversation. Yes. Okay, now, I've got more. I'm going to kick this up another notch. There's something called a slicer, and this is really useful for the most inhibited Excel user. It's a button bar. I'm going to add slicers are button bars, so I'm going to do that now. It again brings up all of my headings. So anything that's in a category already is going to make a great button bar for my data, right? So I'm going to pull up a couple of things here, like I could do by region, I could do by department. See how they work like kind of little pictures? Like when I click on them, I can change the size, grabbing those little handles. When I click on the title bar of the slicer, I can move it. You'll see that it's picked up the filtering I'd already done with East and West. But I'm going to clear the filter now and just show you these in action. I set something up for my mom, mid-70s. She just clicks the button. She doesn't have to know any of Excel. And I know some of us have coworkers that just need a button, right? Okay. These are dynamic, so this is going to happen live as we're working, right? So you're in a meeting and somebody says, well, I really want to see what HR in the north. Well, none in the north. So we're going to narrow it all the way down. We got human resources in the east, and that's bringing up just data on these 3 people. I could change up that pivot a little bit so I could see more. Okay, I added my last name there, so now I'm isolating just those 3 people in that region. You like that? Okay. You can simplify a lot of work that you're doing. I know you can. I'm having people come to me telling me they're saving hours of time taking their raw data and having learned to pivot it instead of manually doing calculations, manually pulling it apart and doing these kind of things. I can see some time savings for you too. Okay, I'm going to move on from that, I also have one for dates, but I don't have any dates in here. There's a timeline feature that's a lot like the slicer feature, where you have a button for the timeline so people can pick by year or by month or quarter. So let's find some other data. I've got several sets here. So there is that original data untouched, the employee data I started with, and I can just add new rows here anytime. When I want that to add into my pivoting, I just hit refresh. And here I built a little dashboard with the same data. So dashboard is just a fancy term for just kind of a summary of everything. I've seen a lot more dashboards. Everybody wants to make a cool dashboard now, so you can make a cool dashboard too. So here's another set of data. It's just some random sales data. So again, I would just start. I'm going to just start back. And I know some of you are taking notes and think, I'm never going to remember all this. So if you are interested, I have some files for you that you would find pretty handy. I've got a file that links you to all the Microsoft step-by-steps on setting up tables and building pivots and pivot charts. And if you leave me your email address, I will send that to you today. What I'm going to do here is just go back through those steps. So what did I start with? I created a table. I could do it from here, home, and I could pick the table format. That's one way to start it. Or again, from insert table. Okay. Now I'm ready to go. I can see in there that I do have some categories of things. I do have dates in this one, so I'm going to show you a few things. Hey, you can use the slicers even just on a table. So if you didn't even go the next step onto pivoting and you really like those slicer buttons, add them here. So if I've added the slicer button, it's a way to filter. And I'm just going to filter now. Instead of using the drop down for the department over there, I'm going to use this. It does the same thing. Okay? So I can isolate just those pieces I want. Remember, I can customize this how I want. So I can do things like the banded rows. I can add in the total row and things like that. What if I wanted to add something from the slicer that was not next door to each other? Anybody have an idea on that? How do I select something that's not side by side? Somebody's got it. Control. So using the control key, I'm able to select several categories there at the same time. If you use the shift key, you can click the first one, hold shift, and click the last one. And that gets you a series. So that's the same all over, like if you're choosing files or whatever, you can hold, click the first, hold shift, and click the last. You can do it with cells too. Let me show. Click the first, hold shift, click the last. Hold control, so click the first selection, hold control and click, click, click your other selections, and you can do the same action then all at once, even if you're not side by side. That works in Word, that works everywhere. Okay? Control. That reminds me of also something that a lot of you would like with selection in something like a table. You can, if you select a column letter, you get from row 1 to eternity. How far is eternity on an Excel sheet? Anybody? It's a long ways. It's over 1 million rows you get in one sheet. Anybody know how many sheets you can get in one Excel file? We used to be limited. We had a period of time where we could get like 256 sheets. We are unlimited now. So when you start to crash, that's too many.
It's always a good sign.
Okay?
I have a question on slicers.
You bet.
Is there a way, say your total column, is there a way to generate a slicer that would be value-based, say greater than 0? Or
Greater than this, less than that. So no on the custom slicers, but let's do something else. Let's do conditional formatting. Yeah? Do you do that at all? It's conditional formatting where maybe you make it a color if it meets a certain condition? Let me finish that thought, and then I'm going to answer that, okay? So what I was showing you, if you clicked on the letter, you get all the way 1 million rows. So if you want to format all those currency, you're good. Clicking this gets the whole thing. When you're set up as a table and you move your selection down right onto the heading name, you get a little black arrow, and you're able to select just what's in the table, not to row 1 million. Here's the difference. I can't see much from the top, but I'm going to show you another trick. So sometimes I do a selection and I can't see the bottom of it. So I found this trick, I don't know, just like 2 years ago I found this one. Control period lets me jump from the top of my selection to the bottom. Control period. And I can verify it without any scrolling business. Checking it, control period, and back up. How nice is that one? Control period, and it works in 4 corners. If your selection is a square, rectangle, control period goes to the 4 corners. How about if you selected and you let go and you realize you needed a couple more columns? You got to start over. No. Hold your shift key and use your arrows. Even though I've let go of the mouse, touchpad, that selection is done, but I can add to it with the shift key and the arrows. Okay, I know that saved y'all some time. Okay, so shift with arrows to add to a selection range. Now I'm going to answer this question about if we wanted some kind of slicer with a, so you could build something. You could build a macro that does this or whatever. But for simplicity's sake, let's just change the color of it if it meets a certain condition. A lot of folks may not know the conditional formatting yet, so let's try it. Selecting just from the heading total, so it's not all the way to eternity, it's just this group. Home tab, conditional formatting. And I get to pick, I've got several options in here. Maybe I want to see everything greater than, I gotta look at my numbers. Where are they? Let's see if we have anything greater than 1,000. Excel loves the stoplights, so green, yellow, red, high, medium, low. Okay, you see a lot of things in the conditional formatting with stoplight kind of things. You can put whatever numbers you want in here, and then this is dynamic, so as your data changes, you can have that conditional formatting set. As you enter new stuff, you can see it populate green or yellow or red or whatever color you pick. You can actually pick your own color. Pink. Okay. So you get to pick that conditional formatting, and as that data changes, your formats change. So great. Now, usually when I show conditional formatting, I like to show a lot of them. So actually, oh, I didn't type in 1,000. It had a number in there, and I left it, if you're wondering. I'm going to undo that and show you some other conditional formats. There's tons in here, and they're so great because I'm real visual. If I look at this and just see the raw numbers, I don't see the story. But when I start adding colors and icons and things, it kind of jumps out at you then. Undo is the cuss key. So look at all the things you have in there for highlighting. Greater than, between, you can use this with dates. It's a great thing for that. Sometimes I want to narrow down and find just the top or the bottom performers. So I could set up conditional formatting to show me the top performers in a color, and I could set it up to show me the bottom performers in a color. Data bars, cover note. Data bars are looking at the whole data set and giving you kind of a percentage bar based on that data set. And again, really nice visual if you need it. I don't really like the color scales. It's too busy for me. It gives 3 colors and then variations of colors between those, but to me this is really busy. There's your actual stoplights. So they have little icons in there you can use, some that look like cell phone bar charging and all kinds of variety in there. But conditional formatting is a great way for you to look at your data quickly, kind of get a story about your data. That's really what we're after when we start pivoting and analyzing data, right? We're trying to tell the story. We're trying to figure out the story. Here I did a download of some data I found. You know, there's so many resources to download data. And this one's not good to pivot, but it was by state, energy info, and this one is actually kind of cool for just turning on the table and using the drop downs to isolate things and sort it. I asked it to show me the less than 5 within that particular column just to narrow that down. Just kind of cool way to look at data and change up your data. Use that table setting, it's really handy. I asked for some data that you all might recognize. Okay, so here I actually have some well data. And again, I'm going to set it up as a table and play with it a little bit and see what kind of story we can get out of that. Now, first off, there's some things in here that maybe will cause me problems. I'm going to look out to the right. There's a lot of blanks in some of these columns. Out here I've got some columns with some blanks. So when you get a data set, do you have to keep every bit of it? don't need it, then you could dispose of it. You can store whatever you need to in these, but I would be careful trying to then manipulate anything that had a blank left in it. You can always write NA in these. These have a lot of dates in them too, so we can organize and try out the timeline. Insert a pivot table to a new worksheet. Okay, so I'm looking for the headings that have some kind of category to them. So what I found here were things like what field. This doesn't actually have like dollar numbers anywhere in it, so it's not as cool to do something in the values, but what I could do is do some counts. I can count things like text or other fields within here, so I'm going to do a count. Okay. So I did well. Now I'm getting a count of the well within each field. Large to small. Okay. So with that raw data set, without doing anything else, it's untouched. I'm just summarizing it. Okay. I'm going to add rather than put a date field into my pivot table, I'm going to insert a timeline, which is like those slicer buttons, and then we can look at specific date ranges. How about this? You say spud? You get to pick years, quarters, months, days. For those that use a weird calendar, no, you can't customize this. This is one of those things. This is what you get. Okay. So I've turned on quarters, and I'm just going to go kind of back. So I'm just isolating data. I don't have dates showing in the pivot, but I'm able to pull out just those dates from the pivot with the timeline. Okay, so don't think you have to shove everything into the table to be able to use it. You can use it in here. Okay. Did I blow your mind? Yeah, okay. I know that was a lot downloaded fast. I'll spend complete days doing workshops, full days, half days on this very thing. So if that was overwhelming, it's okay. That was a lot coming at you, and I'd like to open it up if you have questions for me. I'd be happy to demo some things. Yeah.
I just had a simple one. On the KGS data API numbers, did you go in and format those, or when you downloaded those, were they nice and pretty like that? Because I struggle with their
On
the API numbers. Is data, so so that's basically the well ID is the API number. And it always wants to throw it into an exponential, which you can obviously convert, but then they always end up being screwed up. So
yeah, so I can't remember. I got this data a couple weeks ago, so I did clean up some things. I think some of the dates were weird, and I had to mess with those. So I can't remember if I did on these. I don't think I did, but that doesn't mean the person that shared it with me might have already gone through that part. So it does get sometimes confused with text and numbers together in a field. So when it's a combo like that, I try to make it as as a text rather than a number. But yes, I would try to do all the formatting that I could before I even started pivoting. I would try to make it as clean as I could before I went further. What other questions? So a few of you did bring in a laptop, and I handed out a flash drive. You could download files. I'm going to show you what I have available, and if you would like these files, I will email them to you. I'll show you what I brought. So what this is a file I can share with you. I can email it to you that has links to all the step-by-steps. If you're interested in doing these, I have the step-by-step. I go paperless now. So I don't print out manuals and big handouts, but if you want this, I'll send you all these links and also how to reach me, also to these quick cheat sheets that are great and free. I found these little cheat sheets from my friends at USD 259 with no budget, and I found these and I share these with them. But you can get them for all the different Microsoft products, whatever version you're using, and it's 3 pages. The third page is ads, but you just print those first 2. It's just a 2-page little cheat sheet, nice and handy. Anybody doing VLOOKUPs? Or want to? Okay. So I found this guy John. I think he's a one-man show, kind of like me, and he has this great example of VLOOKUPs with a Starbucks coffee menu example. It really makes sense. So if you are trying to do VLOOKUPs and having some questions with that, I got a nice little one-page handout on working on that too. Okay. So if you want that, just leave me your email address. And if you like my card, it's up here. I'm independent, and I teach frequently at Executrain of Wichita public classes, but I also come to or will visit with individuals, one-on-one help, and small group workshops or programs like this. So if you know somebody that needs me, a lot of people need me, so share it. If you just want to jot down my email address, there it is.